How have you reflected on the season as a whole now that it's all done and dusted and Notts have got that place in Division 1?
I think we look back. I mean, it's a year we've learnt a lot. I think it's our first full season in First Division for a few years. A lot of our lads haven't played First Division cricket before, so I think it was an eye-opener for some. Some of the bowling attacks are much stronger than the second team, so I think people will be better for it. Like always at the end of the season, some of the lads have had outstanding years. Some of the lads have had a lot of experience and have learnt a lot, and will be better for it. So I think it's been one of those years. I think we'll look back at the end of it and we'll think we'll be a better team next year when we come back to stay in that First Division and be more competitive. And I think that's a good thing for us.
And what's the season meant for some of those players who maybe weren't in the first team this time last year but have come through to the fore as the last 12 months have gone on?
Well, Monty will be one. Matthew, it's the second game really he's been there at the end and showed a really cool head. We had one in the Metro Bank at Kent when he batted through and was not out. But that was a really tough situation as a batter to go in as a middle order player against spin both ends, stayed calm, shepherded the tail through and got us over the line. So he'll be so much better. He had an unbelievable start, big score early in the season and then struggled a bit in the middle and came through at the end. So he'll be so much better for the experience of playing in all three comps this year, played the T20 as well. Calvin Harrison's another one who's had great exposure really as a leg spinner. So what you find with players, especially that age, is they learn a lot and they can use their winters then wisely to try and improve on the areas they want to, build on some of those strengths and come back next season a better player. So I think what we'll find is our squad will feel a bit deeper next year. We've had a lot of injuries this year. We've never wanted to mention it because it's no excuse, but we have picked up a lot of injuries and they've meant other people have got opportunities and those lads will be better for it. We get everybody fit next year. We've got a very competitive squad.
The leaders on the stats front in the Championship, Joe Clarke with the bat, of course, with his 1,000-run season. What have you seen from him this year that's taken him on to that level of scoring so many runs?
I think Joe had a watershed moment. I think about 3 or 4 weeks into the season, he hadn't started how he wanted to, and he made some adjustments that he called in, sort of technical adjustments. Very simple things, often they are for a player, that we're going to try and give him, he thought, more consistency. I think since then he's played so well, so consistent, game after game. He's been very calm. And I think the big adjustment has been how he started his innings. He started his innings now in a way that feels like he's got some control. And, batting in this First Division is not easy. And I think a lot of experienced batters have found it tough this year. And Joe's been, to average over 50, score over 1,000 runs, play the way he has. He's become, he's really stepped up, I think. Obviously, Ben Duckett is, somebody we've really enjoyed playing for England, but we've missed him. And it's created that space, I think. Joe knew he had to step up for us as a team, and he's done that.
And two of his biggest innings came in some of those back-to-the-wall causes as well. What does that say about a player's approach to the game?
Well, I think he's learned something from them as well. I think that steel he showed in those games is something he's trying to make sure he transfers in when we're playing the first innings of games, to get ourselves in dominant positions. And I think that's the sort of player he can be. I think he's a multi-format player. He's been a very good T20 player now for several years. He's always been a good red ball player, good 4-day player. But I think now he's moved himself up to another bracket, I reckon. And I think that's good. We're going to see that, I think, moving forward, another level of maturity. And that bodes well for him and for us moving forward.
And we've spoken to Brett Hutton quite a bit over the course of the summer as he's put his 60-wicket season together. What have you made of his form through the last 8-9 months?
Well, he probably, I think he epitomised everything that we want to stand for, really. He came back to us as a Notts lad who'd been to Northants, and he's worked really hard at his game. He's worked hard at his batting, he's worked hard at his bowling, and he's had to wait for his opportunity at different times. He's had a brilliant time since he got back. But this season, to be the lead wicket taker in the Championship with 62 wickets, the way he's bowled on all surfaces, home and away, the way he's batted towards the end. But I think one of the biggest compliments I'll give him is he's taken on the mantle of being a real senior player, in that he's been there for the younger players. He's been good advice for Steve Mullaney out there, even though he's not got the title of vice captain, but he'd always had advice. And he's been consistent as a player all the way through. So I'm so pleased for him for the work he's put in, and I think he's hit a new level as a player because he's stayed fit all season, which is a real challenge when you're playing in different formats. And to get 62 wickets in a season, we saw Luke Fletcher do it a couple of years ago with 63. So we get Luke back fit. You've got You know, people like Brett, who's moved his game. Dane Patterson had another fantastic season. They're exciting. They're exciting to get those sort of players together. Plus the pace of people like Ollie Stone, Josh Tong, Dylan Pennington. So it's exciting. You know, there's some. You know, we can get those bowlers fit. We're going to be very competitive, I think.
Yeah, and the 3 departures we've been celebrating this week as well in Samit and Jake and Stuart. What are your reflections, I guess, on their careers over the last decade or more?
Well, I think it feels like the end of a bit of an era in some ways, in that 3 international players leaving the club. You know, Stuart, one of the greats of the game. You know, we heard today about the pavilion end becoming named the Stuart Broad end, which is, you know, is a great reward for the service he's given the club and the game. So it feels that in some ways from that's going to create space for other people to step into. We're going to need other players to step into those shoes. They're big shoes to fill. You know, Samit has been there since my time here. He's always been there in those big moments. Certainly in one-day cricket over the last few years. He steps up for big games, and other people are going to have to do that if we're going to go on and win trophies and play well in those big matches. And Jake, you know, it seemed fitting today. Jake got the winning runs. Was out there, I think. You know, to be there in that moment and get the applause of his teammates. Everybody loves Jake, quite rightly so. He's a fantastic cricketer. He won't be with us next year, which always feels tough actually when a player moves on, but sport is sport, and we're going to wish him well you know, he'll carry on playing. We'll wish him well, and we hope in the future he has the success his talent deserves.